Good morning. To Secretary Duncan, Congressman Doyle, Senator Wayne Fontana, Representative Don Costa, President and CPO for the United Way of Allegheny County, Mr. Robert Nelkin, Superintendent Dr. Linda Lane, President of the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers, Mrs. Nina Esposito Viscaitis, our board members, Ms. Sherry Hazuda, Mr. Thomas Sumter, Mr. Skip McCrae, Mr. Bill Eisler, and to you, all of our distinguished guests. My name is Shauna Nelson, and I'm a principal here at Pittsburgh King Pre-K-8, the Teaching Institute. On behalf of my administrative team, my co-principal, Jennifer McCullough, and our director, Michael Perella, and our entire school community, we welcome you here for this momentous occasion. Here at Pittsburgh King Pre-K-8, we are committed to transforming education every day, in every classroom, and for every child. With a focus on quality instruction, teacher empowerment and collaboration, and racial equity, we strive to ensure our students, all of our students, are academically, socially, and behaviorally prepared to pursue a college degree or workforce certification with access to the Pittsburgh Promise, a scholarship available to all students who attend the Pittsburgh Public Schools. As the Teaching Institute, we will serve as a model for the nation of what it means to truly empower effective teachers. The exciting transformation that is occurring here at Pittsburgh King is evidence of what can happen when district and union leadership come together to ensure that students have the right teachers in the right places with the right supports. More specifically, Pittsburgh King has been given the opportunity to bring some of the district's most effective teachers to serve the students who need them the most. As you may have read on the signs that were posted throughout the community and as you entered the school today, something great is coming to Pittsburgh King. I would argue that something great has already arrived at Pittsburgh King. And our students' futures will be dramatically altered as a result of experiencing an effective teacher in every classroom, every day. Without further ado, I would now like to introduce to some and present to others our leader, a visionary, a role model, a woman who works tirelessly to transform the face of education in Pittsburgh, our superintendent, Dr. Linda Lane.
Thank you, Shauna, for that very kind introduction. I'd like to just start by welcoming Secretary Arne Duncan and his staff from the U.S. Department of Education. We are so honored in Pittsburgh to be the first host city for the Midwest Bus Tour. And I'd also like to thank all our guests, including our elected officials, who took time out of their busy schedules to either come or send a representative today. We know in Pittsburgh the importance of quality educational programs which prepare our young people for their next step when they complete high school. This is even more the case during this challenging economic time. Our region has seen devastating loss of steel and manufacturing jobs and its resulting negative impact on the size of the population and the average age of our population. But recently, we have seen job growth in education, in engineering, and healthcare. And instead of our young people leaving in search of jobs, we want them to stay. We want them to be able to stay here with us in Pittsburgh. And we know for them to be able to stay and support the revitalization of our region, they have to be prepared for the jobs that exist for them. Many of those are technical or in healthcare. These are jobs that are in our local economy, in our regional economy. I've said to people that as a lifelong educator, I always thought my job was to get the kids across the stage. And I know the educators in this audience know what I'm talking about, right? talk about commencement. I'm talking about commencement. But now I know that that's not enough anymore. We know in today's economy that just that high school education is not enough. It's just simply not enough. So in Pittsburgh, our vision is for 80% of our students to attain a 2- or 4-year college degree or a workforce certification. Whether their goal is to be an anesthesiologist or a zookeeper, we need them to be prepared for the jobs of the future. And this demands that our schools get to keep our students on the pathway to the promise. And of course, what is that promise thing anyway? I'm going to ask the Perry students, you know what that promise thing is? Yes. Okay, that's the answer I needed to hear. Thank you for giving it to me. In recognition of our goals, our community has done an extraordinary thing called the Pittsburgh Promise. Mark Roosevelt, our previous superintendent, and our mayor, Luke Ravenstall, announced the promise in December of 2006. The promise is a scholarship that has the ability to provide last dollar support for our public school and charter school graduates who meet basic qualifications to obtain the $5,000 scholarship to attend college or trade schools in Pennsylvania. Those who meet higher academic qualifications can also get a higher award of $10,000 per year. Now, the day the promise was announced, how many dollars were in the promise fund? Zero. 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 Let me start at zero. Just hang on here a minute. Yeah, hang on here a minute. The first support that came forward was from where? Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers. Now, that day of that announcement, skepticism was pretty high in Pittsburgh. You're going to do what? We're going to do what? How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? But the first people to step forward and say, yeah, we can do this in Pittsburgh. We're the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers with a $10,000 gift. And what a statement of support that was. So I would like to introduce one of those teachers, Miss Mabin, who is what we call a clinical resident instructor, and she's going to be speaking a little bit later. She's an 8th grade literacy teacher. She comes from a family of teachers. And so we're very glad to have her with us. And I also would like now to introduce to you our new president of the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers, Miss Nina Esposito-Vizcaitis, and I'm going to turn this over to her.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Lane. On behalf of the 35 members of the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Secretary Duncan to our city and King K-8, one of the many wonderful schools in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. I would also like to acknowledge the excellent work of our teachers and the tremendous leadership shown by the American Federation of Teachers and President Randy Weingarten, especially during our budget battles and hard economic times. Randy is always looking ahead and moving teachers forward. We all know that of all the school-based factors, effective teachers make the biggest difference in student achievement. Our teachers are demonstrating repeatedly that they are up to any challenge, and they leave indelible handprints on the minds and hearts of our students every single day. Our union is committed to empowering teachers with the tools they need to make that difference in the lives of their students and the broader Pittsburgh community. Because of our teacher union and our work with the Pittsburgh Public School District, education reform is happening right here in Pittsburgh, working for the people of this great city, and we are proud to set an example for what needs to be done across the country. Sorry. Here, will you hold this, Congressman Doyle? Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You make do. You monitor and adjust, right, teachers? You monitor and adjust. That's good. Very good. Very good. And I will give you a grade. As the president of the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers, I am thrilled to see the new and better outcomes as a result of the collaboration between the PFT and the Pittsburgh Public Schools and the involvement of our teachers. They've made an important difference in helping us to improve and strengthen our schools and many of its processes, including curriculum, evaluation, and training. One example of that involvement, thank you so much, that was good. That was very good. One example of that is our new teacher evaluation system that you may have heard a lot about. The research-based inclusive system of evaluation, RISE. This was one example of a program born from the collaboration between our union members and the district. We now know, and we're very proud of RISE, and we know that it's a program that prides itself on including teachers in their own evaluation process and allows for our teachers to reflect on, discuss, and improve their practices. RISE elevates the quality of conversation between teachers and administrators, and it moves practice and professionalism forward. We have so much to be proud of here in Pittsburgh, but there's much work to be done. The start of a school year is always an inspiring time of new hope and promise, and I have no doubt we have the excitement as well as challenges ahead of us. But we want you to rest assured that we are going to work tirelessly together to ensure that every one of our children receive the highest quality of education and to ensure that their teachers, our teachers, are provided the necessary tools to be the dedicated and effective professionals that they have spent their lives to become. Thank you so much. And now I have the great honor of introducing my helper, who got an A today, and I'm very pleased. It was hard to cut down his biography into a short introduction, but I will do my best. Because Mike Doyle, Congressman Mike Doyle, is a true friend of public education, and we're so proud to have him here today. He has been in the 14th District. He has shown himself to be a true friend of public education. He is currently serving his 9th term in Congress, representing the 14th District, as I said. And in addition to supporting public education, his top priorities include revitalizing communities in the 14th District through economic development and high-tech initiatives, creating jobs, reforming healthcare, establishing a comprehensive long-term national energy strategy that creates green jobs and addresses global warming, and fostering a better climate for our high-tech community. Please join me in welcoming Congressman Mike Doyle. If I can be of any help.
Good morning. After watching Nina try to do that with all those pages, I'm coming up here where it's a little bit easier. So, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here at this town hall, and it's a real pleasure to have the honor to introduce our Secretary of Education. And I think it's a timely event, since we observed Labor Day earlier this week, that today we're looking at how teachers' unions are working to improve the education that our kids get. And I want to thank all the teachers that are present here today for your service to our community. Your hard work and dedication to educating our children and the vital role you play in shaping the future of our youth and our country is invaluable. I believe that every American student is entitled to a good education, and we need to ensure that we're providing it. Moreover, without educated workers, our economy will stagnate, our standard of living will suffer, this country will cease to be a world leader in research, technology, education, healthcare, and commerce. Consequently, I'm a strong believer in federal support for education at all levels. And I'm proud of the successful partnership that's been developed here in Pittsburgh by labor and management working together to design a more demanding curriculum, improve staffing process at new schools, elevate the quality of teaching in the city's public schools. And the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers has worked intensively with school district officials to improve the education that Pittsburgh's children receive. You know, it just strikes me as simple common sense that if you want to improve our children's situation and their education, you need to consult with their teachers. The teachers are in class with our kids every day. So I think it's obvious that we should tap into all the knowledge and experience our teachers have when we go about reforming our educational policies. And to its great credit, the Pittsburgh School District has done just that. This willingness to explore new ways of doing things and learning from the results could be a model for schools all over the country. And I'm pleased that Secretary Duncan has joined us today to talk about finding new ways to help our schools thrive and our students receive the education that they deserve. Today, we are honored in Pittsburgh to have the Secretary of Education with us. Arne Duncan has a long and distinguished history of service to our schools. After graduating from college, he ran a nonprofit foundation that helped pay for college education for inner-city students. He also helped start a new public elementary school, the Ariel Community Academy, that is one of the top elementary schools in Chicago. He was appointed by Mayor Daley as CEO of Chicago Public Schools, where he became the longest-serving big city education superintendent in the country. During his time there, he united key stakeholders behind an aggressive reform agenda to open over 100 new schools, expand after-school and summer learning programs, close underperforming schools, increase early childhood education and college access, and boost the caliber of teachers. In 2009, he was chosen by President Obama to serve as the Secretary of Education. In that position, he has been working hard to improve the education of America's children. One of his signature initiatives as Secretary has been the Race to the Top, a competitive grant program designed to encourage and reward states that are creating the conditions for education innovation and reform. His bus tour this week focuses on such reforms, like the collaboration between labor and management here in Pittsburgh. I share Secretary Duncan's deep commitment to investing in our children's education and making it better and more efficient, and I want to commend him for all of his hard work and dedication to achieving those goals. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's give a warm Pittsburgh welcome to Secretary Arne Duncan.
For coming here this morning, and Congressman, thank you so much for the kind introduction. Could we please have another round of applause for Congressman Doyle for all of his hard work and leadership? I'm really honored to be here today, and it wasn't a coincidence that we wanted to start this bus tour here in Pittsburgh. It's going to be a fascinating 3-day, 6-state tour, Magic School Bus, we're calling it, and I've been trying to get to Pittsburgh for about 2 years now. I had a couple visits scheduled, and for a couple different reasons it didn't work out, and I couldn't be more pleased to be here. And I'll just echo what some of the other speakers have said. Both the opportunity but the stakes have never been higher. And I'll go back even when I was in high school, it was actually okay for my friends on the south side of Chicago to drop out of high school. Even graduating from high school wasn't a necessity then. They could drop out and go get a job at the stockyards and the steel mills and have a pretty good life and own their own home and support their family. But we know those jobs are distant memory from a bygone era. And Linda said it exactly right. The goal now cannot simply be to graduate from high school. It's got to be some form of higher education. 4-year universities, 2-year community colleges, trade, technical, vocational training. And we're not just fighting for our children's future and their families, we're fighting for our cities, for our country's future. And what I just fundamentally believe is that we have to educate our way to a better economy. And the jobs of the future are going to require a different level of skills than what's been true for the past 3, 4, 5 decades. And the competition isn't in the district or in the state or in the country. The competition is in India, in China, in Singapore, in South Korea. And we want our children to be as competitive, to have every opportunity to compete with those young people, but we have to give them that chance. And what I see happening here in Pittsburgh is absolutely remarkable. In too many places, people fight the wrong battles. They fight each other. Union fights management. Management fights union. The board gets in the way. The battle isn't with us. The battle is with poverty. The battle is with social failure. The battle is with unemployment. And we have to have a vision for how we're going to overcome those battles together. And here, as much, if not more, than any other district in the country, Pittsburgh is walking that walk. The leadership and courage of the board, of union, of management, to do some difficult things. And this work, by definition, is not easy. It takes going outside your comfort zones. I've said repeatedly that we don't do enough to celebrate excellence, great teachers. There's nothing more important than great teachers. Too many places we're scared to talk about that. Here, Pittsburgh celebrates it, you reward it, you shine a spotlight on it, you incentivize it. That should be happening all over the country. It's not. And so I know how hard this work is. I know probably some tough conversations behind closed doors, but what you guys are doing collectively is absolutely a model for the country. What's also so interesting to me here is sometimes you see sort of a breakthrough or some interesting work or some innovation, and then that leadership changes and all that goes away. We have new union president, new superintendent of the schools, and we're continuing to move forward. So it's not about the individuals. It's bigger than the school system. It's the entire city rallying behind this effort. And as you guys move forward, your goal should be to become the best urban school district in the country. That should absolutely be the goal. And it's tough. These are very difficult economic times. I wish things were easier. They're not. For educators who've been at this for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, these are maybe some of the toughest economic times you've ever seen. We have to try and get better, but our children get one chance to get an education. So we can't wait for a better economy to do a good job in the classroom. And so to see the leadership and courage here, I can't thank you enough for that vision, for that commitment, and the willingness to put children's interests at the forefront. This Pittsburgh Promise is remarkable. I hope the young people here, you got a couple more years, but I hope you're thinking about college now. And to our Perry band members, you guys are fantastic. I want to take you on the road with me. So I got... We got a pretty cool bus out back, and if your teachers will let you, I'll put you on the road with me till Friday. I'll write you a note. But that hope that's a camera, not a person. Okay. That Pittsburgh Promise is a big deal, and every single one of you has to graduate from high school. There is no option to not graduate. You have to graduate, and then you have to think about what that next step on your education journey is. And tapping in that Pittsburgh Promise is huge. I will also add that one of the things that we've fought for in Congress, and thanks to Congressman's support, we've been able to keep it, is over the next decade, we've been able to increase Pell Grants, which is money for college, by about $40 billion. That's with a B. So. I don't care how much money your family has or doesn't have, or what your community looks like or doesn't look like. If you work hard, if you get good grades, there's going to be an opportunity for you going forward. And again, you figure out what's the right thing. 4-year, 2-year, trade schools, whatever it might be. But right now, you got to be figuring out what the next step in the education journey is. But I just want to congratulate the entire Pittsburgh community for driving extraordinary change in a tough economic environment, putting children first, and setting an example for the country. And the leadership that you're going to continue to provide, I think, is helping to change the national dialogue. You guys are focused on the big picture. You're focused on the right battles, and you're going to help lead the country where we need to go. Thanks so much, and thanks for having me here this morning.
I'm Bob Nelkin, President of United Way of Allegheny County, and Secretary, welcome to Pittsburgh, and thank you for recognizing this whole community's efforts. I'm very proud as an advocate and a Pittsburgher my entire life to see what we've been able to accomplish. I think your point about children first is really the mantra that all of us are focused on. And I also believe that it's taken a lot of people working together over a long time to overcome a lot of obstacles to achieve what we have today. So I guess my first question for the panel to get us started is, if the public's listening, viewing this, reading about this, what is your message to them about why this is important and how they can get involved? Secretary, why don't we start with you?
You can't have a great city without a great public school system. I think it's that simple. And if public school systems fail to educate, not just those children, their families will suffer, those cities, their communities will have a horrendously negative impact on them. And so this is in everybody's best interest. Everyone has to rally, the business community, the non-for-profits, the social service agencies, the faith-based institutions, parents, business owners, grandparents. This can't just be the work of the school system and the union. This has to be work of the entire community. And where that happens, great things are possible. But quality education and a strong, growing, vibrant economy are inextricably linked. Those jobs of the future all require higher education. They require an emphasis on the STEM fields. And if we fail to get there, the cost to our communities and the cost to our country is huge. If we do this well, we put our country back on the path to prosperity. So we are at an absolute dividing line, a fork in the road, and Pittsburgh collectively is going in the right direction.
Anyone else with an argument to the public about why they need to put children first and get behind public education?
Well, let me just to go on top of what the Secretary said. Whether you have children in school or not, it's in everyone's interest that every child receive a quality education. This is a key economic development issue for the survival of our country. If we're going to continue to be a great country, we have to have kids that are ready to go into this workforce. The competition isn't, outside of Pittsburgh. It's worldwide now. We're competing with the rest of the world. Our kids need to be prepared to do that. We're put our country and our future at great risk if we're not all involved in the education of our kids.
One thing about this education thing, there's enough work for everyone to be involved. And so whether you're an employee of the district and doing this work as your life's work, or whether you're a member of this community and can reach out to young people, even those not in your family, about the importance of staying in school, about the importance of doing homework, about how they need to be thinking about their future and getting ready to work toward those goals. You can be a mentor, you can be a tutor, you can go read at an elementary school. Any way you can reach out to young people in the community, I think, matters, and it's very important. And I know that many in this community, one of the great things about Pittsburgh is I think we have tremendous community support, and a lot of the supporters are in this group here with us this morning. So we have great community support, but we can use even more. So there's a role for everyone.
So go ahead, Nina.
Quickly, a major outreach program with the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers has started, and we want to invite people to get involved. We are getting involved with a number of community organizations that we're very pleased about. And also we want to say that you can go to our website to get involved and also to contact your teachers. We know so much how our teachers love involvement, and sometimes parents back away from getting involved. There's a fear there, but our teachers will welcome you. You'll be surprised and pleased at how much our teachers will welcome you and want you involved with your students in their classrooms.
So I want to pick up on that theme from Linda and Nina. And Secretary, a little bit later this morning, community leaders, elected officials, and foundation leaders and educators are going to be announcing a huge recruitment of mentors, tutors, and early grade readers. We're actually responding to your call that you and the First Lady made in January for 1 million mentors, tutors, and early grade readers. So we have these opportunities. One of the things that, why don't we stop at that? And Secretary, do you want to talk about why you asked for 1 million mentors, tutors, and early grade readers?
I just appreciate the United Way's leadership on this nationally so much that I think if you can ask any kindergarten teacher, who are those 2 or 3 or 4 children in his or her classroom who might not be getting as much support in home as they'd like, who may be missing too many days of school. And I always say that, we try and stop dropouts in 7th and 8th and 9th and 10th grade. And I think it's pretty late in the game there. You got to make that effort. But we know very early on at 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 years old which children need more help. And we have to step into that gap. And, we have some children who have great support at home and they're going to do just fine. We have other children who need that mentor, who need that role model, and they don't need them just at 15, they need them at 5. And nonprofits, social service agencies, faith-based institutions have to step into that gap. Great teachers can't do this by themselves. Great principals, great superintendents can't do them by themselves. This takes the entire community. I always say if you just look at attendance, if on a test you get a 90%, on a test, that's an A. You did a pretty good job. If you have 90% attendance on a 180 school day year, that means you're missing 18 days of school. You're missing a month of school. And we have children who have 80% attendance, 70% attendance. That's a prediction for future dropouts. We know that early on. And so getting the community to step up. And what I see so often, unfortunately, is where we, in the traditional communities, don't do it, who's out there on the streets 24/7 are the gangs, are the people on the street corners. They're out there rain or shine. They know which children are falling through the cracks, and they're there for them if we're not. So that's where the competition is. That's where the enemy is. And so getting 1 million role models, 1 million mentors to help those children who need a little bit more help, I can't overemphasize how important that is. The final thing I'll say is that my mother's run an inner-city tutoring program in the south side of Chicago for 50 years. And very few of her children come from two-parent families. Almost none of her children have members of their families who've gone to college. But she's had extraordinary success because from the earliest of ages, she and other adults have been in these young people's lives and helped them to envision a stronger future for themselves and helped them envision what they could do. And so when we give opportunities, despite the real challenges of poverty and violence and neighborhood stress, our young people can meet us more than halfway, but we have to be there for them. That's why these mentors and role models are so important.
We're going to do our share. We figure our share is 4,000 in 3 years. We're going to do it. We already have almost 400 mentors for sixth graders in 8 Pittsburgh schools, and it's all about helping kids see the importance of school, for their life. Leslie, did you want to chime in here?
I just wanted to say that it's very important, not only for teachers in the classroom, but also for our community, our grandparents, our parents, everyone, just to acknowledge students. If it's no more than, hi, how are you? Did you read a book today? Did you do your homework? A compliment, it just makes all the difference to our students on a daily basis.
It seems like we have to get to very simple commands that all of us can work on. Go to school, be on time, do your homework, work hard, achieve, and feel proud about yourself. I'm not sure what the formula is, but is that similar to what you're using in this school?
Yes, it is. Actually, we're using a new concept this year, which is DREAM, which is an acronym that is pushing and motivating our students. And the D stands for Dare to Believe and Achieve. The R stands for Respect My Community. The E stands for Excellence, please. Help me out. Extraordinary effort. And the A stands for Act Responsibly, and the M stands for Make the Right Decisions, please. And we're really driving our students with that theme this year and helping to motivate them and to get them excited about what they're learning in their classroom every day.
One of the things that's important for the community, a role for the community, in addition to volunteering and encouraging our kids, is also advocacy. In the political, economic environment that we have today, we've got a lot of competing interests. There's Medicare and defense and Social Security and lots of other expenses, and education, is in the balance. One of the things here, Secretary, in Pittsburgh that we've had is strong advocacy from our foundation community and from advocates in general, from the school board, for public education. But what role, any of the panelists, should the community play in terms of advocacy, in terms of standing up for public education and children first?
I think one of the things that's really important is for community members to be engaged in the work of the school district. And by that I mean paying attention to what's going on at the board level, what recommendations are coming forward and being engaged at that level. But then beyond that, both at the state and the national level are important. And of course, one of the things that I think that we forget is so incredibly important is to always vote. Always vote.
Can we pass the mic to the congressman on this question?
One of the things that, and I don't know.
By the way, congratulations on being a great helper with the paper. You're good.
I don't know if this is true in every state, but in our state, education is primarily funded through local property taxes. I think this creates tremendous disparities among school districts, and I think we need to broaden that base. It just seems incredible to me. In my congressional district, which is the entire city of Pittsburgh and 53 communities outside the city of Pittsburgh, you can just drive 10 miles and see unbelievable disparities in school buildings, in equipment, in resources that are available to kids. Go into the Mon Valley to Duquesne or Clairton. and then just drive a couple miles to the South Hills, and you see the disparities. Why? Because we fund our schools primarily through local property taxes. So if you live in an affluent community where houses are assessed at very high values, that brings a lot of money into districts, and people recognize how important education is, and I'm not looking to drag those districts down. We need to raise all districts up. I think we need to broaden the tax base. I'd like to see it funded at a broader level than just local property taxes, so that every kid, regardless of geography, has the same textbooks, has a school where the ceiling doesn't leak, has access to computers like they do in other districts. And then if local communities, by local referendum, want to build that AstroTurf football field or the little extras, that's fine. Do that by local initiative. But the basic education, the equipment, the teachers, the building, the things that the kids need to be successful, that should be universal amongst every school district, and there shouldn't be any disparity. So one of the things I'd like to see us do is consider broadening that tax base and take it off the local level and have a broader base.
Any other comment on the advocacy role for the community?
If I could just add to what the congressman and the superintendent said, I think everyone should go to the voting booth thinking about what is this candidate doing to lead on education and to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And I think that's one of the challenges we have, quite frankly, is we've been far too complacent. We just sort of perpetuate a status quo that simply isn't good enough. And if we fundamentally do believe that we have to educate our way to a better economy, then we need political leaders at every level, local, mayors, Congress, presidency, at every single level. We need political leaders who are going to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And far too many parents, it's interesting, when you survey the public, many parents say, my school's okay, it's all the other schools that aren't good enough. And there's sort of a disconnect, and there's a little bit of an unwillingness to ask the hard questions and look in the mirror and say, all of our schools need to be doing better today than they have in the past. And I always, if you think education's expensive, try ignorance. And we quite happily as a country lock people up for 40, 50, 60 grand a year, but we argue and fuss and fight about just adding a little bit more money to education. I think our priorities are fundamentally backwards. And we have to invest not in the status quo, we have to invest in reform, we have to invest cradle to career, early childhood, K-12 reform, making college much more accessible and affordable. But if we don't do that, the consequences for our country are absolutely devastating.
Superintendent, this is a question for you, but in terms of the public again, how do they know that Pittsburgh's making progress? And what are the results that should encourage them and motivate them to get involved as an advocate or as a volunteer? And then secondly, a year from now or 2 years from now, what will be new that will be evidence to them that we're making progress?
I think the most immediate indication that we've had is that we're making progress is because under No Child Left Behind, we are called Making Progress, which means this year and just last week, we announced that we made AYP for the second time in the history of the district, and so that was encouragement to our teachers, certainly, for all the hard work they've done, our school leaders, and some of my staff folks standing over against that wall have done a ton of work as well. And so anyway, I think that certainly was something that is an indicator of making progress. Beyond that, as we look forward to the next 2 years, I think it's one of the things that we're really going to have to look for as an indicator of making progress is around graduation rate. And we know we have a challenge coming forward because the calculation of that rate is changing between this year and next year. So we're going to be on a whole new scale. But nevertheless, keeping these young people over here in school till they finish and making sure that they are ready to avail themselves of the Pittsburgh Promise. Because clearly the promise is out of reach if you don't finish high school. So that's something that I think is going to be incredibly important as we talk back to this issue of our regional economy, getting kids ready so that they're eligible for the promise, and increasing our rates of being able to do that are going to be just a real, as I say, a huge goal for us.
Let's open this up to the audience. There are 2 microphones. Just line up there if you have a question, and I would ask you just to make your question brief. While people are gathering their thoughts and questions, You know, one of the things I would point out in terms of the main theme of this visit, in terms of the labor management cooperation, there's a history here in Pittsburgh of that. While we were the birthplace of a lot of unions, through the last 20 or 30 years, we built an airport without a day lost. We built a convention center without a day lost. We've had all these very remarkable, progressive labor management arrangements. So it's no surprise that the teachers union supported and took a lot of risks, in actually joining the partnership with the district to make quality education first. So, some questions? You want me to call upon you guys?
I'm not scared to ask a question. Since the school, we don't have after-school programs anymore. And I would like to know what the Department of Education do to help us get more volunteers in our school. Right now, on our side, we're trying to develop a PTA that's not district-wide, eventually district-wide, but we want to have the PTAs in these school areas, Martin Luther King, Manchester. We want to have one PTA meeting. So what can the Department of Education do to help me reach out for volunteers?
First of all, I think having those schools open longer hours is hugely important. And, two-parent working families, single moms trying to work 2-3 jobs to make ends meet, parents looking for work, those hours from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock are times of real anxiety for parents. And we try and provide over $1 billion a year in after-school funding, so I'd encourage you to look at the funding sources we have. But in terms of recruiting volunteers, nonprofits, social service agencies, faith-based institutions, I always think schools should be the hubs of the community. And bringing in those nonprofits to have them co-locate and provide their services from school buildings, I think can be very, very beneficial. Everyone's struggling for money now. School districts, nonprofits, social service agencies, but in every community all over the country, we have 95,000 schools. Our schools have classrooms, they have libraries, they have computer labs, they have gyms, some have pools, and they don't belong to me or to the superintendent or to the union, they belong to the community. And so I think thinking about schools as community centers, co-locating, bringing in the nonprofits, making the schools the place where the entire community comes to learn, I think can be hugely important. We have, talk to you afterwards, we have a series of resources we'd like to put you in touch with, and this is actually a community schools movement around the country where people move in that direction. And when families learn together and schools are the true hearts of the community, I think great things happen for young people.
I would just like to stress that and say that the Pittsburgh Public Schools have a great partnership with the nonprofit community, and they've opened the doors. There's a lot of coordination. There's a lot of work to make sure that there's excellence and good support for the kids. At the same time, the question really is a poignant question because these programs are struggling. Nonprofits have received 20% less contributions over the last 3 years. You have more kids who are struggling. It's really a crisis, and we know that the community has to join in. Lisa?
Good morning. I want to thank you all for coming today, and I heard the many stories, and I've heard, as a parent of a 5th grader at Manchester Elementary School, I want to commend the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers, did I say that right? For all that the teachers do. We have excellent teachers in the City of Pittsburgh School District, excellent. Our administrators are excellent. Our principals are excellent. They work with bare resources. They're excellent. They go above and beyond. So it's not the teachers. Our teachers are excellent. They're stellar. The schools are stellar. Did I say that loud enough, Ms. Cherry? The principals put in a lot.
We couldn't hear you, Lisa. Can you repeat that?
The principals, the schools, the district, from the top down, they put in extraordinary effort into our children. And I heard different things, and I'm not knocking anything I heard, but I heard different things, the community, the faith-based, the business district. In the Pittsburgh manual, you call this a shared responsibility. Is that right? It's all of our responsibility. As a parent, president of a PTA. You'd be surprised how many PTAs exist in the city of Pittsburgh. Very, very few. My comment is, or concern is, while we look to a lot of other things, mentors, Mr. Bob Nelkin from United Way, it's good that we have mentors. It's good that we have all of this. But parents are the first teachers. It begins in the home. It begins in the home. You can only teach when they're in school, but you cannot teach to an empty chair. It's the parents. We need more, and she's my advocate here, the class of 2015. On behalf of our children, it's the parents we must reach out to.
Okay.
And Mr. Wallace was talking about volunteers. It's the parents. The school district started in a good way. Title I requires parent engagement. That is the premise of Title I. We need to do a little bit better of getting parents back to the table, involved in their children's education. Thank you.
Anyone want to respond?
Well, one of the, I appreciate the advocacy, certainly. And I think as school people, one of the things, when I talk to school people, I talk about school people's responsibility. And when I talk to parents, I talk about parents' responsibility. But I think that there are ways that we as school people can reach out even more to our parents. I know that we have many parents that are highly engaged in our schools, and some of them are sitting right in this room right now. But we also have some that we miss. They don't get to school very regularly. They may be hesitant to come. And so we, as school people, have to think, how can we make it be a place or make those conversations take place? And even if they won't come to school, is there a place we can meet that we can talk? Even if you don't have a phone number, is a way you have a neighbor that'll reach out to you and let you know, I need to talk to you and you can call me at school. So what are some of those kind of things we can do as well? Because we know, especially in these times, a lot of our parents are struggling, and they're struggling. A lot of our parents, some of our parents are very young. It may be their first child. They may not know all the things that will really help support their child in that education. So I think we take a role in that as well, and I know many of our teachers do this every day. They reach out to parents, they call, they even stop by homes trying to make that contact. So, and I think we need to continue that effort.
Great. James?
Fogarty with Communities for Teaching Excellence. How are you? Quick question about how we can continue to incentivize the work that the PFT and the administration here have done across the nation so that we are focused on the right things, which is our students and our teachers, and getting them the right supports at the right time. I know Race to the Top is a way to do that, but what are the ways that the Department of Education and maybe even Congress are thinking about how we can continue to grow this movement so that it's not just Pittsburgh where you're seeing this kind of collaboration, but all over?
So we've tried to do two things to get in this game. First of all, we held an international summit, and we were actually stunned to hear it was the first time it ever happened with my equivalents, the secretaries of education from other countries, and the heads of the unions from those countries. We had a fascinating meeting, two-day meeting, really talking about what folks are doing in each of their countries to drive this progress, and lots of good ideas came from that. Secondly, last year in Denver, we hosted a conference with 150 school districts. And the whole focus of the conference was using collective bargaining as a tool to drive student achievement. We had 150 districts come. We had a waiting list of 100 districts, and we would only take districts where the superintendent, the head of the board, and the head of the union would come together. And so it was fascinating. That had never happened before. And so I think there's an appetite out there. We think there's frankly, a relatively small number of districts that are really cutting edge and using the collective bargaining process to drive student achievement, and we want to start to take that to scale and replicate. So you have a number of districts starting to move in this way. We have 15,000 districts. So we need to move from 50 to 500 to 1,500 to 15,000 as quickly as we can. And so we're trying to provide leadership. We're trying to convene. We're sharing all this on the website. There are no secrets here, so districts can learn from one another. But we have a lot of hard work to do here. And again, I think Pittsburgh can help, not just to drive student achievement here. Pittsburgh can help to shape this national conversation, I think, in a very profound way.
We're going to have the last question and then call upon the superintendent and the secretary for last remarks.
Good morning. I'm a Pittsburgh public school parent, and I just wanted to attest to the fact that the Pittsburgh Public Schools Central Administration is actually partnering with parents like myself. I'm involved with a couple of volunteer initiatives. One is the Title I State Parent Advisory Council. We do work with the Department of Education in Harrisburg. Another one is a new initiative with the Department of Education and Pittsburgh Public Schools called the Pennsylvania Parent Leadership Academy. I set up a Parent Information Resource Center at Miller School in the Hill District, but my children attend Obama, and they just left a school called Phillips Elementary School. So there are, and also I'm a parent member of the Equity Advisory Panel, Advocates for African American Students in Pittsburgh Public Schools. I think the volunteer opportunities are there. We just have to do more to communicate those opportunities, and so parents can get involved. And recently, Dr. Lippert and Five Burgess invited me to a workshop, Beyond Diversity Training, Courageous Conversations. It's an excellent book that prompts the reader to read through the chapters, and as you do so, to recall your own racial experiences. And I've been doing that, and I have plans to, at the next EAP meeting with Dr. Lane and her cabinet, to share some information as I sit here and listen to Secretary Duncan talk about how our economies, I don't think I looked at that as a parent in a large perspective of how just my profession as a cosmetologist, and I'm looking at the Peary students, I think it's important that you all, I can say to you all, that there's some money that comes out of your pockets to maintain your hairstyles. Am I right? Am I right? I know firsthand, I went from being a corporate auditor to a cosmetologist, working 2 days a week because of how much money we spend on our hair. So I wanted to share that. I think that Pittsburgh Public Schools can do a great job at using our cosmetology courses to teach children how to teach our students to get workforce certificates that can be very profitable in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent, closing remarks?
Yes, I just want to first thank our several people here. Our Pittsburgh delegation, thank you so much. They are such great advocates for us. And not all of our board was able to get here today, but 4 of our board members are here. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, Secretary Duncan and all of the representatives from the department that have come to join us today to celebrate some of the great things going on in Pittsburgh. We appreciate it so much. And we wish you all the best in the rest of your tour of the Midwest region. So thank you so much for coming.
I just want to thank the entire community for your commitment to breaking the mold, to challenging the status quo, and to getting better faster than you ever have. And what we're trying to learn in the federal government is how to become a better partner. And I think so often our office has stifled innovation. We've been focused on compliance. We've been focused on bureaucracy. And we're trying to fundamentally change the business we're in, to scale up innovation, to replicate best practices, to shine a spotlight on success. So please hold me accountable and my team to being a good partner to the progress that's going on here. We didn't talk about it this morning. It wasn't the purpose of the conversation, but we think there's a lot that's broken with the No Child Left Behind law. We want to provide a lot of relief, provide more flexibility, hold folks accountable to a high bar, but give them a lot more room to move. And we think if we can be a better partner and we can encourage the innovation, encourage the creativity that we see coming from so many districts, that's going to speed up the rate of change. I always say the good ideas in education are never going to come from me. And never going to come from anyone else in Washington, quite frankly. It's always local educators, teachers, parents, principals, superintendent, board members. They know what their children need. They know what the community needs. We want to be a better partner. And then finally, I just want to thank all the students. Can we give all of our students a round of applause? And finally, just urge you, your job is to get a great education. There's nothing more important. And you have to dedicate yourselves. There's lots of temptations. There's lots of pressures. There's lots of things that can pull you off course. Nothing's more important. Please keep working hard. And if you do that, a lot of doors are going to open for you. Thank you so much.